All right, I'm back like I never left. Yo, Shanika, Barbados, big up yourself. Kenya, Nigeria, Maka Yusuf, big up yourself. Devon, I know where you are, bro. You're in the USA. Texas representing in the building. Karen Miano, Kenya. Yo, for the Kenyans in the house, tell me where in Kenya you're writing from because I'm Kenyan. I know where you're at. My Nairobi and Mombasa people, are you in the house? Hey, Bungoma. Yo, that's so close to my rural home, my traditional home. I come from Busia. Yo, Sudan, big up yourself. Yo, Westlands. Yo, hold up. Moses, hold up. Kilifi, that's my current city, man. My family lives in Kilifi. Yo, big up yourself. Yo, Paul, Wainaina, Westlands, Westie. We used to kill it in Westlands. Paul, I used to be a DJ back in the day, man. So, yo, Barbara Mwangi, Raka, I know Raka. Barbara, that's near Two Rivers Mall, yeah? I haven't been to Kenya in a long time. But yeah, I know. Raka, Two Rivers Mall. Yo, guys, if you're in Kenya right now, if you remember a DJ unit called Black Star Entertainment, probably some of you are too young to remember Black Star. I used to be in Black Star Entertainment. I used to play a show on NTV called Rush Live every Saturday morning, NTV. Yo, Eugene, I lived in Kisumu as well at some point, in Milimani in Kisumu, near the State House. Yo, Parklands, yo, Anderson. Big up yourself, man. Parklands is the hood, man. Yeah, bro. Okay, guys, let me not get carried away. Whoever's ready to just ask something, warm up the room, say something, what you've learned in the past 2 days, put your mic on, don't be shy. We're all here to learn. Like I said, we started off with 3,000 applicants and we whittled down registrations to 600 people. But right now, today, we probably have a tenth of those people because people have group mentality. Don't have group mentality. You came here for your own mission. All right. I see a hand up. If you want to say something, unmute yourself as I find the panelists for today. Let me find JI.
Hello.
Yo, Maka, what's up, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Um, I'm actually very happy to be among people who are still participating this time. I
Yeah,
participated in the last hackathon and I
yeah.
was part of the winners for the last hackathon. It was actually an amazing and eye-opening for me.
Yo,
And
bless
it
you.
gave me the opportunity to actually work on some projects that I've been working on with my team over here in Nigeria.
Yeah, big up
Yeah.
yourself, Maka. And guess
Yeah,
what,
thank
Maka? You keep going
yeah.
on with that same vibe, you probably might be one of the people going to Paris for the aquarium residency with Electric Dreams. So keep going, man.
Yeah, thank
Marcella
you.
Barasa, I see your hand up. You want to unmute yourself and say something?
Yeah, okay. Hello.
Marcella, vipi
Hello.
bana?
Hello. Okay, sijui kama unanisikia. Hello.
Nakusikia Marcella, but now speak in English because people will think you're gossiping them. But I hear you loud and
Okay.
clear.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I just wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
So yesterday my net went off before the meeting ended. I think it was just a few minutes to 9 p.m. and I had asked a question regarding the ideathon. So I don't know if you addressed it. How are
Yeah.
we supposed to go about it?
So
Yeah.
we are going to have a session dedicated to the Ideathon next week. We are not trying to trick you. We are not trying to fail you. It's something that is easy to work on, okay? The Ideathon is going to
Okay.
be kind of like an elevator pitch where you're just saying the solution you have and how it
Unelevated.
applies in your local region,
Oh, nice.
okay,
Yeah.
and how you think blockchain applies to it. Yo, hold up. If you're not talking on the mic right now, please mute yourself so that you stop interrupting people who are speaking. It's a bit rude. Yo, Trisha, I see you. Big up yourself, Bridgetown, Barbados. Yo, so Marcella, we got you.
Yeah.
We got you.
Okay.
We have everybody covered. Don't worry, we're not here to fail you, all right? Yo,
Okay.
Almarat, what's up?
Yes,
JI,
hello.
if you're in the building, raise your hand so that I pin you to the screen as well. Ah,
Yeah,
JI, see you, homeboy. Yo, what's up, bro? London town representing.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. How we doing? It's good to be
We're cool, bro. What you mean, fam?
here.
Yo, all right, cool. Almarat, what's up, man?
yeah, cool, man. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm from Sudan, but I grew up in Kenya, so but yeah, cool.
Ah, mzuri sana. You're my brother, bro.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I guess yesterday was actually an interesting day because I got to learn about the XRP ledger.
Yes.
Well, of course, there are many blockchains, but most of them you have to write the smart contract. But now something that caught my attention yesterday was like on the XRP blockchain, you don't write a smart contract, and it's kind of they already inbuilt just to avoid, of course, the errors that come with writing smart contract to avoid I mean the hacks we've seen, which sounds interesting, and of course, just looking forward to see how that will be possible. But my main question will be about is it the hackathon? I mean, are we going to build on this blockchain or any preferred?
So, Almarat, listen, don't jump the gun. The hackathon is the next stage after this boot camp, okay? So we have three stages. We have the current boot camp, which will culminate in an ideathon. And then from the ideathon, in the summer, around August or thereabouts, we're going to do a hackathon. Okay, and we are a blockchain agnostic platform, so we don't choose one particular chain. Okay, so depending on what chain you feel comfortable building on, we got you. All right, so don't sweat and don't stress. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have the Electric Dreams stage, which is the one we partner with XRPL and some other institutions to see whether we can take people to the next level in terms of their entrepreneurship journey. Okay. But let's discuss this later because we have JI in the house. He's ready and good to go. Yo, JI, I'm gonna make you co-host. So if you have slides or anything else, you are fully capable.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so there you go, bro. So guys, JI is in the building. Hold the questions for later.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. Yeah, no, it's a privilege to be here. My name is Jeremiah. I'm representing Nigeria today. Come on, you already know. My
Yeah.
Yoruba name is Oluwasayo. Come on.
Aye, come
So,
on, yo, where did that accent come on, bro?
come on. It never leaves me.
Yo,
But
bless
yeah,
man.
I'm grateful to say I'm here in the UK. Yeah, like I said, my name is Jeremiah. Friends call me Jay. Clients call me JI. I've been, at the intersection of transformational technologies. First of all, it started off with blockchain and cryptocurrency, and now it's transitioning a lot into AI. And the great thing is, there is a lot of synergy between these two, pieces of technology. And just so you guys understand, firstly, think of it as like blockchain is like the backbone of AI in a sense, or it definitely will be. I think of it like when you're using the internet, you're not really thinking of the protocol TCP/IP, right? Which is what makes it work. And that's essentially what blockchain is to AI. And that's certainly what it will be. I like to begin my sessions by saying the future is always already here, but it will never be evenly distributed among the population. So the key to staying ahead is to be well-informed and connected. So I hope you're all ready today to become a lot more well-informed and a lot more connected. Brilliant stuff. I'm going to start sharing my screen. And just so I don't run over time, how long have I got?
Jai, do your thing, bro. Do your thing. So we have till the top of the hour when Lavinia comes in, but let's say at about quarter to, we're gonna have Yumika coming in to discuss wallet security as well. But right before you start, I just need to bring a bit of context to JI. So guys, JI works with Keish and Michael of Blockchain Sensei and the ICP Hub. So we had a discussion and we said, you know what, let's slow down on the money bit of things right now. You know, like all that venture building and stuff. We're going to discuss that next week on the class of the first. So today, JI is going to bring the blockchain, smart contracts, and AI thing. And then we're going to move to the money part later. So just learn. Don't just be greedy for the outcome. Respect the process. If you're greedy for the outcome, go and do trading and then you're going to get effed up. We're here for the process. All right, guys? Respect the process. Yo, JI, back to you.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, and you know, it really all starts off with learning everything. And one of my favorite sayings is that the more you learn, the more you earn. So before you actually want to get there, you need to be able to learn and you need to be able to be consistent with that. So yes, it's a privilege to say I am a part of ICP Hub UK. I also work very closely with Keish and Micah at Blockchain Sensei, and yeah, no, it's great to be here. So I'm going to start sharing my screen, and we're going to get right into it. Amazing stuff. So I'm going to try and make this quite interactive because I think you know, the learning is always in the doing. So yeah, let's get into blockchain. What is blockchain? Like, what does it mean? I actually want to put some feelers out there. Like, you guys are more than welcome to drop some messages in the chat. When you hear the word blockchain, what is the first thing you think of? Okay, I see someone said, is there a PDF for the blockchain? That's interesting. I mean, there probably could be a document written out for it, but I want to get into like where you guys are at, because I don't want to repeat anything maybe you already know, even though I will be covering it from you know, from the very basics. So when I say blockchain, what's the first thing you guys, you know, think of? Blockchain, decentralized ledger. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a brilliant way to begin. Decentralization, immutability, that is extremely true. That's essentially what it is. I think we've pretty much got the right idea here. So I think of it like this. Block is a computer, a ledger, a governance engine, perfect. So I think of it like this. A block is a computer and the chain is essentially a chain of computers, right? So computers chained to each other so that you don't necessarily need an external big tech sort of server in order to facilitate it. Here's how I think of it. Web 1 is kind of like using, you know, let's say some cans and a piece of string, right? That's like email, right? Web 2 is like a notice board, let's say at a university. Anyone can put up anything on there, but the university has control over what's on there, right? If they see something on there they don't like, they can take it down. Web 3 or blockchain is like a notice board that anyone can put things on, but no one can take anything down. Now, this is crucial because when it comes to cryptocurrencies, it means you can see what everyone is doing and how they're transacting financially on the blockchain. You just don't know who is who. Now, this is an interesting spin on the game theory of finance and technology and I guess human society in general and how we understand capital and also social relations in terms of how important it is to, I guess, not necessarily have to dox yourself just because you want to transact with someone. So yeah, essentially blockchain facilitates that peer-to-peer lending. And of course there is a decentralized ledger element attached to it. So you can see everything that's going on the blockchain. Okay, cool. So yeah, imagine a world where you can send money to anyone, anywhere in seconds without a bank. In fact, you are your own bank with complete control, no permission needed to access or to move it, right? And the beauty of blockchain and cryptocurrency is that it's trustless. Now, if you say this to like some normies or the masses, they'll be like, trustless? That means there's less trust. But no, not quite. It means there's no need for trust. You don't need to trust when you can verify, right? Of course, there are a lot of scams in the crypto space, which is why we, you know, a saying between I have with people in my network is don't trust, verify. You understand? Verification removes the need for trust, so you don't need to trust. And this is also what blockchain technology can facilitate. Okay, cool. So what is the convergence? Well, essentially, the convergence is the culmination and, in a sense, amalgamation of a whole bunch of different sort of technologies, right, that enable people to do many things in the world. I mean, primarily transact, but not just that, to do a whole lot of things. For example, you can put assets on chain. There's a concept called real world assets. You know, there's even the concept of decentralized finance as well, right? There's a whole bunch of, you know, different sort of applications and augmentations that can happen to society and industry because of the convergence that blockchain can actually facilitate. So as you can see here, we've got cloud computing, we've got AI, of course, the Internet of Things. Internet of Things is, you know, things like you know, the Apple Watch, for example, any sort of smart device, smart TVs, genome editing. Of course, blockchain and AI will be very significant in health tech, like moving forward in the world, battery technology. So there's a whole sort of, there's a lot going on. Robotics as well is definitely worth mentioning. There's a whole lot of stuff going on. And yeah, it's important to understand the ramifications of the combination of all of these technologies. Okay, cool. So let's move on. Like I said, blockchain is essentially computers linked together in a shared database. So think of the word block as computer, and think of the word chain as linked. So essentially, a lot of computers together keeping each other accountable, right? So you don't need a centralized server, because the problem with the centralized server is that it's controlled by people, and people are, of course, fallible and susceptible to corruptions just by their very nature, right? Now, that's not to say people will inevitably always be corrupt, but it is to say that there is that possibility, and that possibility creates risk. And that's, of course, what we're trying to mitigate. Okay, so here's a little bit about the blockchain history. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but it's good to know history so that you can know where things are going, right? Because, you know, no matter can be created or destroyed. Everything comes from something else, right? There's a continuous time experience we're all having, and there's been a continuous time experience that blockchain has had as a technology, right? So the longest running blockchain started in 1995 and is still running strong today, which is yeah, I mean, that goes to show just how long this technology has actually been going on for. Now, it started off with Ralph Merkel's Merkle tree, right? Now, this was essentially the backbone and the sort of initial frameworks of what came to be this peer-to-peer sending and receiving system for finances, right? Now, David Chaum founded DigiCash Corporation in 1989, right? And in the 1990s, there was the introduction of proof of work and a P2P network, which is person to person, which is I transact with you and no one needs to know, right? Because if I'm making a barter with you, let's say back in the old days, instead of money, it was I'm swapping you some rice for some beans, right? Let's say you've got rice, I've got beans, or whichever way around, and we agree on, you know, let's say number of grain of rice and number of, you know, beans, then that's fine. No one else needs to know about our transaction because it doesn't concern them. Now, this is essentially the revolution we're going through when it comes to money as well. Okay, cool. So in 2004, Hal Finney introduced reusable proof of work. Satoshi Nakamoto launched Bitcoin in 2009. Interestingly enough, the year after the 2008 crash, right? I don't believe in coincidences personally, but yeah, that was literally just a year after. And in 2015, July 2015, Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, and Gavin Wood launched Ethereum open source smart contract. Now, Ethereum is, of course, I'm sure you've all heard of Ethereum, and what Ethereum really did in terms of like changing the space is it allowed people to build on top of a particular blockchain. And what they could build are decentralized applications that would facilitate different sort of transactions and different sort of decentralized finance solutions. Okay, so moving on. How blockchain works.
Hold up. You need to go back to the previous slide.
Oh.
Yeah, in this group, we have plenty Kenyans. And
Cool.
Kenyans in the building have to throw down a flag and recognize the Kenyan technology that's being shown on that screen right now. You have to recognize home right now. Kenyans, come on, man. Respect yourselves. Big up yourselves. Throw down the flag for Safaricom, M-Pesa. These slides go international. Blockchain Sensei are always teaching Oxford University, Cambridge, international. These slides have been places some of you have never been. So respect your country, man. Throw in a flag for M-Pesa.
Big ups to
Yeah,
M-Pesa, yes.
and tell the guys in the group to come to class because you registered for the thing, you've been shortlisted. Come to class. Anyway, Jai, back to you, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, of course, this technology is absolutely global. And yeah, it's amazing to think that blockchain can also be, to a degree, an equalizer in terms of geopolitics, because the blockchain doesn't care about whether you're a guy or a girl or the color of your skin or anything like that. It's just a smart contract, and it's just set to execute when certain conditions are met, or when someone with access to the private keys, which I'll go into later, actually executes that contract. But yeah, no, it's completely amazing the way this technology is transforming socioeconomic situations across the world. And yeah, of course, Africa has had a massive play in that as well, even though it may not necessarily get the same level of public recognition that it truly deserves. Okay, cool. So firstly, is anyone actually got any questions? Because I don't want to talk for too long. Okay, cool. It ensures integrity and anyone can see the transactions, but they can't alter. Does it mean the essence of seeing the transactions is what makes it transparent? Yes, that's precisely what it means. So being able to see what's going on and see the transactions is what makes it transparent, because nothing is hidden. Like right now, there's so much that's hidden in terms of what's really going on in terms of global banking. And it's not necessarily in the interests of global bankers to show everything, to show all their cards. But no one can hide anything on the blockchain, right? Which is the key thing. And yeah, that coupled with the fact that you don't know who's who creates a very interesting, you don't know who's making the transaction. Yeah, all you see is just a random series of letters and numbers, which is just a wallet address. Now, this just creates a very interesting dynamic in terms of game theory as well. But let's go into how the blockchain works just a little bit. So firstly, let's say I want to send money to someone here on this call. Or yeah, let's say I want to send money to Kenya. Why not? Let's say I've got my friend in Kenya. I'm like, hey man, you really helped me out the other day. Thanks for providing that product or that service. Let me pay you now, right? So he requests, I request that I want to do a transaction. Now, in order to do this, I need to know his public wallet address, which is basically like an email address where everyone can send you money. There's an easy way to think of it. So it's like an email address. You can give it to anyone. Just because they know your email address doesn't necessarily put your money at risk, right? Just like if someone knows your email address, that doesn't mean they can read your emails. Okay, cool. So the transaction is broadcasted to a network of nodes. So all the nodes, which are essentially all the validators, all the other computers who are essentially keeping the network secure, they all get this message that this transaction wants to happen. I can go into a bit about validators. So a node is essentially a validator, and they're the ones who make sure the network is secure by making sure all the information on that decentralized ledger is up to date and correct, right? And is not being altered in any way, shape, or form. Now, when it comes to mining is essentially the process of solving really complex mathematical equations in order to create or to have access to a piece of a cryptocurrency. Now, this is how Bitcoin works. And there are even some like initiatives to mine Bitcoin in many places in Africa because, of course, the value is going up, and the cost of electricity, let's say, is not necessarily as expensive as in other places, so it can actually be quite a profitable endeavor. So yeah, that's essentially the relationship validators and miners have to blockchain as a network, right? So the network validates a transaction using known algorithms. This is things like proof of work, which I mentioned earlier, and there's also the concept of proof of stake. So the transaction is unified with other transactions as a block of data, right? So imagine a block of data, and then they put in a number of things. One of those things that they put in is called a hash, right? And this essentially forms the information that is actually stored on the blockchain. So the new block is then added to the blockchain in a transparent and unalterable way, because in order to change that block, you would need to go and change it on a whole lot of different validators and systems. You'd have to do what's called a 51% attack, which takes a ridiculous amount of energy and time and money. So how many transactions make a block? That's a good question. I mean, I think that's an interesting one. I think it makes sense for it to be like one transaction for a particular block. And I think that's probably what it is in most cases, but I would have to double check on that. I think it could also depend on the blockchain itself, because not all blockchains are like exactly the same or have the same sort of consensus mechanism. So it actually depends on the blockchain itself. So there's not like one, hard and fast answer for that. But that's definitely something worth looking into if you're in the technical side. So,
Jay,
yes, sir.
would it be correct to say one transaction is equals to one transaction because the point of the blockchain, especially the Bitcoin ledger, is to prevent the double spend problem. So one transaction carries one transaction.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is like that with Bitcoin, but if we're talking about blockchains in general, then yeah,
Yeah,
you would have
there's
to.
various transactions being processed at the same time. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. But for Bitcoin, yeah, you're completely right. I was thinking in terms of like entire blockchain architecture in general, but yes, no, that's certainly the case, and that's essentially another massive sort of issue that Bitcoin solves is the idea of the double spend problem, and that's why essentially it's the ultimate form of accounting, really and truly, which is why it's being used for a lot of financial solutions. Okay, cool. And then lastly, the transaction gets completed. Everyone on all the validators, they get updated. So now they all know, okay, this transaction has happened. Finances have moved from this wallet to the other wallet. Okay, cool. So what are ledgers and why do we need them? So a ledger is essentially a way of keeping record of something, right? And blockchain allows us to do it in an encrypted way. So it stores real transactions that have been verified, right, by people who have access to those keys, right, essentially network participants. And it essentially can allow them to transact in a decentralized manner, right? Crypto, and this is what I often like to explain it fully for people so they understand like why things like centralized exchanges aren't necessarily true to the ethos of crypto. Crypto stands for the cryptographic encryption, essentially not having to dox yourself, of one's identity so that you can transact on a blockchain in a decentralized manner. I know what you're thinking, very catchy, right? But that's essentially what it is. I can send you money or finances or assets without having to dox to the entire world or some centralized entity who I am and what I'm doing. Okay, so we can think, okay, what industries do we think need this kind of transparency, right? I'll just let you guys ruminate on that. But I can tell you now that it's certainly a lot, right? So blockchain is Bitcoin. That's a big myth. Bitcoin is just one cryptocurrency, of course, right? And there are many things you can do with blockchain, but of course, Bitcoin is sort of the flagship sort of utility provider for blockchain technology. Okay, so blockchain is better than traditional databases. Now, there are different sort of trade-offs, right? Like mining Bitcoin is a very energy and intensive process. Whereas to create a database or a spreadsheet, you can just go on Google Sheets, right? There's no complex mathematical problems involved. Now, the blockchain is immutable or tamper-proof. Right. So, like I said, if there was something called a 51% attack, so which is where over 50% of the blockchain has been tampered with, then transactions could actually be rewritten. But for all intents and purposes, this is pretty much impractical because it will take too much energy and time and coordination of so many different entities. So the blockchain uses immutable data structures like cryptography, but really and truly, it depends on the adjacent applications it's also being connected to, which is why you can connect to a DApp and find out your wallet gets drained as well. So blockchain is a truth machine. Blockchain can verify all transactions and data. So obviously that's the fact that blockchain is a truth machine is a myth, right? And the reality is it can actually verify transactions that are native to that specific blockchain, right? Which is the important thing to remember. So for example, it can't necessarily access or say whether something else is true, let's say on a different blockchain like Ethereum or Solana. Okay, so who owns the technology? Well, JP Morgan, BlackRock, they were very key investors in MetaMask, which is basically one of the first ever decentralized wallets. And it's important to understand this because they're always sort of forward thinking, like these massive conglomerates. Okay, I see we've got a couple questions here. I'm just going to take those. So is there a difference between a block and a ledger? Yeah, so a ledger is essentially made up of like many blocks, and those blocks contain information about transactions, and those are what keep the network secure. Okay, brilliant stuff. So if blockchain is 100% secure, how do people steal Bitcoin from others? Well, it's because there's usually a phrase leak, right? Either or a key leak, which is where someone else has access to your private keys somehow. That's the only way someone can steal it. Or yeah, if you connect to the wrong DApp. But even when you connect to the wrong DApp, you expose your private key so that you can actually connect to the DApp, right? But you do it in a sort of in a more secure way for the majority of dApps. But some dApps can actually just drain your wallet immediately. So it's always down to a leak of the private key or the seed phrase. That's the only way things can be stolen from a blockchain. Is a central place where ledgers are controlled or managed? Yes, so you can look at blockchain scanners online. There's one called SoulScan. You can look at the Bitcoin blockchain online. You can look at the Ethereum blockchain online. There are actually multiple different kinds of ways you can look at it, but it's not like a spreadsheet, right? It's a little bit more cryptic and different to, like you have to analyze it differently. I see Paul was right in saying no, in the sense that it's not a traditional database, but you'll have to look at it as like a decentralized database. If you just go on solscan.io, you'll be able to see exactly what that looks like. Can we get the slides? Okay, cool. Yeah, slides are there. Amazing stuff. Could your funds be stolen from your wallet address? Only if you let your private key or seed phrase slip, and you give someone else access to it, or they discover it. Okay, cool. What is the 51% attack? It's basically 51% attack is when someone tampers with more than half of the blockchain. Now, this is pretty much, well, I mean, they're talking about quantum computing now, which is kind of scary. Apparently, it could break blockchain. Oh, you're saying I'm talking really fast? Okay, I'm going to slow down a bit. But essentially, for all intents and purposes, the 51% attack is where someone takes control of the majority of a blockchain. But that requires so much energy to do. I'm trying to make sure I can respect the time. That requires so much energy to do. A 51% attack is pretty much negligible. And how is data integrity ensured in blockchain? Through the validators. So it's not just one sort of validator, it's hundreds of thousands of computers and validators making sure that network is secure. Okay, cool. Yes, certain blockchains are becoming more centralized.
Yeah, you don't have to rush through the slides. Just take your time.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. I wasn't trying to rush. I know I can sometimes speak quite quickly. But
you can exhaust your slides. It's fine. We'll just manage the time afterwards. It's fine.
Okay, amazing. Much appreciated.
All right, cool.
How do zero knowledge proofs and Tornado Cash work? Well, I don't know too much about Tornado Cash specifically. Zero knowledge proofs are essentially a way to prove something to another entity without necessarily having to give up any of your particular identity or any potential intellectual property or anything that could be traced or linked back to you. It gets quite technical, but once you understand the technicality, which I'm not going to go into right now, of course, it does make sense, and it's a great way to validate things without having to make it known to everyone, who you are and what you're doing or where you are, right? Okay, cool. So the history of mining, right? So we used to be able to sort of do it on our phones, but the algorithm gets harder and harder, which is why you're going to need more and more energy and electricity to mine Bitcoin as time goes on, right? Now, the key thing to remember here is that Bitcoin is still increasing in value. And it has. Like, anyone who's held Bitcoin for pretty much more than 4 years is pretty much in profit, or at least has been in profit at one point, right? Whether or not they chose to take their profit, that's up to them. If they're leaving it for generational wealth, also a good strategy, if they're doing something similar to MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor, makes sense as well. But yeah, the energy required is going to continuously increase, and it does take a lot of warehouses with very high-tech computers to actually mine Bitcoin. Okay, so this is the foundation of a blockchain, and this is very, very important. And the solution a blockchain solves is that people wanted to be able to store assets in a decentralized manner without having to dox themselves or give authority and responsibility to a centralized entity. Now, in order to do this, they couldn't do it with just one key, so they needed two keys, right? A public key, which you give to everyone, right? So they can send you money and assets, and a private key, which you guard with your life, right? Because anyone who has access to this has access to your generational wealth. I'm already in a mindset of like, I know that my great grandkids will have to protect that private key and seed phrase with their lives, because this is how wealth will be passed down from one generation to another eventually. So yeah, like I said, private key, singular organization has access and authority, right? Guard this with your life. It can be a private key or seed phrase, but private key takes precedence over a seed phrase. A seed phrase will give you access to multiple wallets, whereas a private key is specific to just one wallet. Can blockchain work with NFC technology? That's an interesting question. I'm more familiar with blockchain than with NFC technology. Perhaps if there's anyone who's particularly familiar with NFC technology, then they can chime in the chat. I know NFC technology is where you can just tap on something and you can send information like a link, but I don't know too much about the technicalities. Okay, cool. So the public key also allows everyone to have access to the network and take part in the consensus. Cool, great stuff. So moving on, the two different forms of proofs on a blockchain. So you have proof of work, which is essentially like solving a really complex puzzle, right, using a very powerful computer. And this is good because it's a strong security, right? It provides really good security because you need to actually solve that complex math problem. And it's a good decentralized method for validation. Now, the disadvantage is, of course, it needs very energy-intensive machinery in order to actually execute on this. And then you have proof of stake, which is pledge of own stake in tokens, right, to validate particular transactions. Now, the good thing about this is that it's fast and it's a lot more energy efficient, but unfortunately, it does require significant upfront investment, and the fees are charged for each validated transaction. Okay. Good stuff. I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys are all following along. If you got any more questions, yeah, definitely drop them in the chat. So we've got Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So Bitcoin is, of course, a store of value, right? Because, yeah, fiat currency is plummeting in terms of its value, right? In fact, I'm going to be honest, the only money that feels real to me is cryptocurrency, because like, how can the value of my energy, attention, and time and money be expendable by the people who print the money? You know what I mean? That's what I call them. There's always a group of people who print the money for every, country, government, and they're the ones who really own money. Everyone else just takes money. You don't really make it. You take it from someone else. Obviously, it's in a mutually beneficial and a mutually agreed upon way for a product or service, but it's still taking. You're not making it out of thin air like the people who print the money are. Okay, great stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of the way I see it. And this is the utility that Bitcoin provides. And that's why, every 4 years, every cycle, if you held for at least 4 years, at any point when you bought Bitcoin, you would be up. Cool. Okay. So Bitcoin is, of course, strong security, and really and truly, all other cryptocurrencies are just, they're just a leveraged Bitcoin bet. The aim is just to get more Bitcoin, right? Modern portfolio theory is an important thing to understand, because essentially it means you should have the majority of your assets in low risk, low return stuff. And then, if you've got that spare capital, if you're in a position where it's not going to affect the day-to-day running of your life, your family, your friends, and all this kind of stuff, and your financial statement, that's when you can be a degenerate gambler on meme coins, right? Not when you're struggling with your rent. Definitely don't be putting rent money on meme coins. Okay, cool. And then we have Ethereum, which is the ability to essentially build decentralized applications, as I mentioned before. What do I think of the future of the impact of quantum computers and blockchain and the hashing algorithms? That's a very interesting question. I think it's still too early to say, but yeah, it's going to be quite interesting. I mean, ideally you want to diversify, right? Have multiple assets in different kind of places, maybe some real estate. Even though cryptocurrency is the most secure form of asset at the moment, yeah, I would definitely recommend that. Okay, cool. So the great thing about Ethereum is that it's fast, energy efficient, and yeah, but unfortunately it does have upfront investment, and like And like, you know, with Bitcoin, the disadvantage of that is that, you know, it requires a lot of machinery to actually power up and to keep running. Okay, cool. So what is Vitalik's trilemma? Who is Vitalik? Vitalik is this young man right here. His trilemma was essentially, how do you combine the three things, which are security, decentralization, and scalability, right, into a singular sort of blockchain or layer of technology? Because usually it's sort of like you can only choose two out of these three. You can either have security and scalability, and we've got Ripple here, Stellar Lumens. You can have decentralization and scalability, but you know, not that secure like IOTA. Or you can have decentralization and security like Ethereum and Bitcoin, but it's not as scalable as these other cryptocurrencies and blockchains, right? So this is the trilemma, and yeah, this is essentially what blockchain is really wants to solve at the end of the day. So this was Vitalik, this is Gavin Wood, Charles Hoskinson, Joe Lubin, other like interesting and very notable members as well. There's some people here who went on to create other like really notable blockchains like Polkadot and Cardano as well. So disadvantages of blockchain are, of course, it's very intense in terms of energy consumptions. So it does have detrimental effects on the planet. So yeah, that's always important to be mindful of. But however, there are some initiatives, like for example, you could like one thing that you know the validators and the miners need is cooling, right? So one initiative I've seen that you know some governments will take is they'll build Bitcoin mining rigs in like Iceland where it's really cold, so they don't have to spend as much on the cooling. So that's one way you can sort of mitigate the energy costs. And this even goes as well with AI because it takes a lot of GPU. And, you know, I'm sure you're all aware, like NVIDIA's, you know, running a lot of GPUs at the moment. So yeah, there are initiatives like that to make sure it's just a bit more or a bit less intense on the planet. Reliance on personal responsibility. I always say with crypto and blockchain, there's no customer service. There's no one you can just call and be like, oh, sorry, I accidentally gave this person my private key or my seed phrase and they joined my wallet. Can I get it back? None of that. It's gone forever. So yeah, no personal, no customer service. The price of security is responsibility. Slow speed of scalability, right? And false narratives, because anyone can say anything, right? We all live in the age of the internet, this digital world. So yeah, anyone can go online and say anything. So promising use cases are, of course, cryptos, smart contracts, NFT marketplaces to make sure intellectual property can remain with particular creators, supply chain and logistic tracking, healthcare management, property ownership. This is quite an interesting one. You can actually tokenize properties, right? Let's say you have, and I know there's some initiatives going on in Dubai similar to this. Let's say you have 1,000 square foot of a property. You split it up into, let's say, 1,000 pieces. So each foot is worth one. And then you launch a token from it. And in that token, there's only 1,000 token supply. So each token counts as 1 square foot. And then you basically pay people who hold that token as like the owners of that piece of real estate. So tokenized real estate is also another interesting one. Music and film. My background is in, of course, creativity. I had a modestly successful music career before diving into transformational technology. Education, of course, that can't be understated. Personal identity and security, which is, of course, you know, something that ICP is also very big on and allows people to actually leverage blockchain technology in order to accomplish, you know, personal identity and security to minimize fraud in you know, blockchain scenarios. Cool. So what to look for in a blockchain? The revenue, the developers, the devs be deving, as you know, Michael Harden likes to say. Partners, VCs, network growth, market cap comparison, token distributions, and total value locked. What is the market cap of this entire blockchain, which is essentially like the total value locked? Network growth is really important. The more developers are building on a chain, the more dApps there will be. And if there are more dApps, that's essentially opening up the scope for mass adoption, right? So these are key things to look out for. Okay. And yeah, investment opportunities as well. You know, I think blockchain technology is very important. Like I said, people will be using it and they won't necessarily know they're using it. For example, it's going to be quite useful in gaming. NFTs can essentially act as like skins, and they can be transferable between games as well. You know, that you can create an entire marketplace of game skins, you know, that can be, you know, swapped between players, and that becomes an entire ecosystem, right? So there's a lot of scope, right? So of course, there's trading, everything from the meme coin that just launched 2 seconds ago, because apparently there's 20,000 meme coins launching on Solana every day, if not probably more right now. You can buy shares in companies that use blockchain like Coinbase. Coinbase is the only cryptocurrency listed on the US stock market for a reason, and Coinbase sometimes acts like an altcoin and sometimes even a meme coin if whenever crypto is going crazy. So yeah, investing in companies that hold cryptos, that makes a lot of sense. Right now, we've even got the Bitcoin ETFs out now. So there are multiple different ways you can actually invest in cryptocurrencies. There's yield farming. You can invest in mining pools. Of course, you always want to make sure these are not scams, because there are a lot of fraudulent activities and fraudulent actors in the blockchain space. But yeah, like I mentioned, they're ETFs, and of course, you want to join a good community. I mean, you guys are in amazing hands here with this community, of course. And it's really more about tapping into community and knowing people in real life as well. I think a lot of Web3 and blockchain is just a lot of people behind screens, of course, because it's digital technology, right? But it doesn't necessarily have to be. It can also be an in-person thing, because let's say I meet my friend who I was sending money to in Kenya. Let's say I fly to Kenya, but let's say, for example, or any other country, but unfortunately the currency of that country, let's say, is being debased. This is a way for me to provide him accurate value for his products or services without being fearful of the fact that that value is going to go down. So yeah, I mean, I think this is pretty much it. I think that pretty much wraps it up. I'm looking in the chat now. Is there a difference between miners and validators? Yeah, so validators basically make sure that the network stays secure by making sure all the transactions are basically are recorded in multiple different places. It's kind of like a book. If you've got multiple different copies of a book, let's say they burn like 50% of those copies, you can still recreate the book because you've still got the copies of that book, dotted around, many places around the world. Cool. Yeah, some blockchains are becoming centralized. Yeah, that is true. Decentralization is the spectrum, but really at the end of the day, this transformational technology is always evolving. The key thing, like I said at the start, is just to be well informed and connected. So yeah, thank you all very much for listening. If you're interested in more transformational tech stuff, I do a lot of stuff on the AI front now. I have a YouTube channel called Everyday AI with JI, where I post about a new AI tool every single day. I also try and incorporate other forms of transformational technology like blockchain and crypto into that. So yeah, if you're interested in that, certainly get in touch. And yeah, it's a privilege to be able to educate you all.
Yo, JI, big up yourself. Yo, guys, in the chat, just throw some fire emojis. Like, man, them killed it. Fire emojis, fire emojis. I don't know where my emojis are. Yo, fire emojis, man. Like, boom, 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 boom. Yo,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
bro, hold up. Don't go nowhere, because we have Yimika coming in to speak about wallet security. Then we're gonna have Lavinia Osborne coming in. Lavinia, if you've heard of that legal precedent, Osborne and versus OpenSea, Lavinia was the claimant in that matter, yeah. And it's really relevant at this stage, especially as Yimika talks about wallet security. So JI, don't leave the room. We're going to have a guest lab, and Nino and our Evan and myself, we're going to join you in the guest lab now to take all the questions that culminate after this session. So big up yourself, JI. Let me just unpin you so that Yumika does his thing. Yo, Yumika, you want to introduce yourself to the people?
Hi everyone. I'm Mimika. Hi Brian. Hi No Long Thin community. It's great
Yeah.
to meet you. I'm a researcher and solutions architect at Exponential Science based in London, and worked on many projects. I'm Nigerian as well, it's worth mentioning. And yeah, it was great to meet you guys.
Yo, you Nigerians are plenty. So I have a question, Yimika, and JI as well, and the Nigerians in the house. Which jollof is better?
Which are Nigerian or
Or
Ghanaian?
Ghanaian?
Oh
It's
no,
not a
not yet.
question.
It's not a
Nigeria,
question.
come on, bro. It's not even a debate.
Yo, and I heard there's one from, is it Senegal or one of other places or Cameroon? One of them basically have
Yeah,
jollof as well.
yeah, from Senegal as well. But I think they were the inventors. But
Uh-huh.
Nigeria, we kind of like we spiced it up and we took it to the next level.
I'm done. You make it do your thing. Yo, big up yourself. So you have admin rights as well, so you can share your slides if you have any.
Yeah.
Okay.
One sec. I haven't used Zoom in ages, so it just looks a bit. I'm trying to share my screen, like my whole screen, because I can't find. Okay, yeah, there we go.
All right, cool.
Okay, just checking. Can you
Yeah,
all
we
see?
see it.
Yeah, okay. So I'll be speaking on design variations, vulnerabilities, and security measures of crypto wallets. And just because I know like there's a range of like what would we say, like some people here will probably be newbies and some will be like more experienced. So just trying my best to like summarize it, maybe more from a newbie point of view, and then if there are like more experienced people on the call that want to ask questions, like that's fine. So first question. So why are wallets important, right? And we've had about 6.8 billion in funds lost since 2012 through wallet hacks. We had a initial one in I think 2012 or 2011, but then more recently we had the Bybit attack in 2025. And when we started this study, I think it was sometime in 2022, but since then we've had lots of hacks in Web3. I mean, many in DeFi, bridges, but a lot in wallets as well. And what makes the wallet attacks interesting is like they target exchanges, they target individuals, they target governments. So there's a wide range of like of people targeted by the adversary. So when we want to, I'm not sure about most of you, but my journey into Web3 started about 3 years ago, and it started with like being a crypto owner. So I think I had some Bitcoin initially on Coinbase, and then I had some, I think Ethereum and then Solana. But then when you use Coinbase, that's essentially like a wallet, although we'll go into what differentiates Coinbase from MetaMask. So wallet is a system that typically generates a private key and securely stores it in an encrypted form, enabling an authenticated user or owner to sign transactions that broadcast to the blockchain. An emphasis on typically because we have recent advancements that don't really necessarily handle private keys, but then the wallets as well. And then if we take a look at some examples of this, Coinbase, I mean, now we have two Coinbase wallets. We have the Coinbase Exchange, which will probably be like a system of different wallets. We have the Coinbase wallet, which is non-custodial. We have Binance, we have eToro, Bybit. We have a hardware wallet here, Treasure, MetaMask, Argent. And on a more simple axis, we can see wallets as custodial and non-custodial. Custodial necessarily means that you um, you don't own the private keys. Sorry, you don't own the private keys. So the private keys are owned by Coinbase or Binance, but then they manage it on your behalf. So they probably have like a ledger which tracks your transaction to say, okay, Brian used this amount of ETH, so we just display it on the UI on the front end. But then in terms of the more technical level, you don't own the private keys. And then we have smart contract wallets as well, which are relatively new. We have hardware wallets, and non-custodial web, desktop, and mobile wallets. And web wallets are typically stored in the web storage, mobile wallets downloadable on like iOS and Android, and desktop wallets are like the first set of wallets, like the Bitcoin Core. And then when we look at like the wallet mechanism, like what actually goes on, we have the generation of a public and a private key pair, private key and a secret key. And then we can see the private key is more or less your authorization mechanism, which you use to say, yes, I authorize this transaction or I don't authorize this transaction. And then the public key is public identifier, which has to generate an address, which receives cryptocurrency, can receive cryptocurrencies for that particular private key or network. And then when a wallet is initialized, or one of the first steps is when you sign up on your MetaMask or you sign up on any of these wallets, whether it's a hardware wallet, your private key is generated and you have an address. So therefore you can send money and receive money. This is just a generalized framework. I know it might vary from one, there might be slight variations from one network to the other, but in general, you see here we have Bitcoin and Ethereum use this key generation algorithm. And then we have the encryption algorithm as well, used by MetaMask, and then the hash algorithm. So we just have different networks using different key generation algorithms and hash algorithms. Well, this is the general step one in general architecture. And then if you go on further, what happens next is you generate a transaction, which anyone working who's traded crypto would probably have done before. So you need to specify your transaction details, and then you sign the transaction with your private key. And also we see that the private key is encrypted and decrypted. So when you want to store your private key, it should be encrypted. That's best practice. Although we have some attacks whereby the users or the exchange owners do not encrypt the private key and they store it. So the private key is then decrypted and used to sign the transaction. And yeah, we also have different signing algorithms on different blockchains. But as soon as the transaction is signed, it's verified using the public key and then broadcast to the blockchain. And if we look at how everything fits together, we see that we have the wallet initialization algorithm, they have the transaction generation algorithm, and then the transaction broadcast algorithm. And then you see how the flow happens. So it typically starts from here, it goes here, downwards, where a random seed is used to generate a private key. The private key is encrypted with a password or PIN. Hardware wallets typically use PINs, whereas passwords are used on other type of wallets, but they're basically key encryption keys. And let's say you have a Coinbase or a Binance account, your password is basically your authorization mechanism. But then, as you know, Binance or Coinbase, they hold the private key. So when you are not on the stage of private and public key, you need to specify here where we have state transition information. It's basically the transaction. You create your transaction. The transaction is hashed and then signed using the private key and then verified with the public key. If it's false, if the verification doesn't work, essentially, if the public key verifies the signature and it's false, the transaction is reverted. If not, it's broadcast to the blockchain. And here we just have a few algorithms which are generic of these stages in wallets. But moving on beyond this, we see how the mechanism changes depending on the type of wallet. So for software wallets, we have most of this connected online, especially when we were thinking about like browser wallets. But then for hardware wallets, we have the parts. So the private key is stored offline, and then the only online connections are when you're more or less creating your transaction and broadcasting your transaction. So the private key never leaves the offline device. And there exists a connection between the online wallet client, and the offline hardware device. This can be USB or Bluetooth or various forms. And then if we see how wallets have changed since 2009, where we had the Bitcoin Core, we had desktop wallets, and then the first set of custodian exchanges, paper and brain wallets. Paper is when you write your seed phrase on a paper, and your seed phrase is typically the random seed that generates the private key. Brain wallet is when you try to cram your seed phrase. And then we have mobile wallets, browser wallets, hardware wallets, and we have some other Ethereum standards that came about, which brought some kind of innovation, which is account abstraction with wallets. Most people would use custodian wallets, but it's advisable to use non-custodial wallets. When you factor in things that happen with maybe FTX and some of these exchanges, you want to own your private keys, especially when the amount of value in cryptocurrencies you hold exceeds a certain amount. It's just best you have like a hardware wallet or maybe a mobile wallet. And then we see that a lot of this evolution was influenced by security and some of it by functionality. So with paper wallets, was the prevalence of a lot of malware attacks around this time. So it was need for thinking of like another approach to store credentials beyond the desktop or the browser, and then hardware wallets as well, primarily motivated by security. So we did some really interesting things when we're conducting this research, or while we have been conducting this research, because it's still ongoing. So we looked at all previous vulnerabilities in wallets. So on the left side, you can see like there's Bitcoin Core, Electrum, Coinbase Wallet, Treasure, a host of wallets. And on the right side, we have threats which have occurred on these wallets, and we'll be looking more at these threats in the next slide. But we also created a new taxonomy or a design methodology for wallets, rather than just having it flat and like custodial and not non-custodial software or hardware, where you have initialization, distribution, authorization, validation, authentication, and recovery, where authorization shows that wallets the work beyond private keys. You can authorize with other methods, and you can also validate with other methods. But the important part is that there needs to be like an authorization mechanism and a validation mechanism. And these are some of the vulnerabilities, just a few of them. So we have predictable random number generation, which has to do with like key generation when you generate your private and public key pairs. Weak signatures, inadequate signature verification is a very common one. But we also have very easy, not easy, but let's say very low level vulnerabilities like low strength passwords and yeah, and data leakage as well. And when you don't encrypt your private key as well. So here we look at like the capabilities of the adversary when these vulnerabilities exist. And so we basically, what we try and do is we take away the key mechanisms like we saw in like the first couple of slides, where we broke it down into three major algorithms. We map them into vulnerabilities and map these vulnerabilities into attacks. So yeah, it's quite a maze, but if you look closely, you see, okay, inadequate encryption can tie to like malware. And then the figure on the right, we basically specify all the mechanisms, all the parts of the mechanisms that are that can be attacked by the adversary. So we see, okay, and we also categorize wallet attacks into 5 major categories. We have the cryptanalysis attacks, storage and memory attacks, application attacks, authentication, and network attacks. Network attacks mainly try to create malicious connections to disrupt, or let's say either to intercept a network connection and create a new network connection, as in a man in the middle attack, or overload the network, as in a denial of service attack. And application attacks are also quite common. They include malware, a bunch of clipboard attacks, clipboard hijacker attacks, where maybe you copy your wallet address, and then when you try to paste it, you paste another wallet address, the wallet address of the adversary. So these are basically the attacks, cryptanalysis attacks. They target the cryptographic algorithms like the generate private key, public key algorithm, and sign algorithm, storage and memory attacks. They target the storage where the private key is stored, like on the hardware device or stored on the server. And then authentication attacks basically try to decrypt the private key by various ways, such as brute force, dictionary attacks, and even attacks which have to do with like two-factor authentication. So, and we see here on the left, we have network, application, authentication, storage, cryptanalysis, and some try to connect to do connection hijacks, some try to do service denials, malware executions, privilege escalation, social engineering, phishing attacks, very, very common, even on wallets, and also malware attacks, very common on wallets. But we wouldn't really go too deep into this, but yeah, just to have an idea. And then on the right here, we see some of these attacks which have happened. And if we look more closely at them here, I think we have about 85 incidents, because we recorded Bybit, I think, as well. So we see non-custodial wallets. Custodial wallets have been attacked for various amounts of money. 235 million, 112. I think Bybit was like 1.4 billion or something. Yeah, so your wallet can be, I mean, not your wallet can be attacked, but yeah, it can. I think especially when it's stored in exchanges, because they pull everyone's funds together, so it's attractive for like the adversary. But then if you just have it on your non-custodial wallets, you should be fine. And then we just look at one of our other papers we propose, where we look at like a multi-party wallet. And in this sense, you can have a private key split between multiple devices, where you have two users jointly sign a transaction, which is broadcast to the blockchain. Here, we show this through a solution where we design with a wallet, with a wealth manager and a client. And yeah, but it's an MPC solution where you have multiple private keys used, and you distribute key generation, key management, and recovery between the client and the wealth manager. And yeah, we'll just try to skip over very technical aspects, but you can think of it this way, and I hope the figures help. But you have like a private key stored by the client, another private key stored by the wealth manager, and another private key stored by, let's say, yeah, the wallet provider. Like, and then what normally happens is, because it's a two of three MPC, two of these private key shards are required to sign the transaction. And then for one wallet address is generated. Each of these partial signatures are aggregated to form one signature, which is used to sign the transaction and broadcast on the blockchain. And we see this figure is very similar to the one we had before. We still have the functional components, which includes key management, authorization, transaction verification with the public key, and broadcast of the transaction as well. And then we also have a novel aspect of key recovery here called direct, where you split the private key into shards and you share it among helpers. And you can just think of these helpers as people you trust, that you can easily recover your your private key from. And if we go on to one of the last slides, why are wallets important, right? So I'm assuming that there are going to be many people on this call that want to build different applications on Web3. Every application you want to build as a Web3 application requires a wallet, whether it be abstracted or not. You essentially need an authorization mechanism to authorize the transfer of funds. And even when you're not dealing with funds, let's say in the case of like decentralized ID, you still need like something of the sort of like a wallet mechanism to authorize the right to let's say share your details or the right to share your personal documents. But then you can think of it this way. So if you want to build a tokenization application, DeFi application, whether it be a lending protocol like Aave or a yield aggregator or a decentralized exchange like Uniswap, you need to have a wallet. You don't always need to manage a private key yourself. You can work with like a provider, but you essentially your customers need to have wallets to transact. And if you decide to integrate a wallet which you manage yourself, or yeah, whether that be abstracted, yeah, easy ways to like make money or generate fees or generate revenue from this. And if your users want to interact with lending protocols per se, you can easily charge an extra fee and then simplify the process for them. And you pay the protocol fees, but you keep those protocol fees, the extra fees. And then let's say they want to interact with like a yield aggregator to increase the crypto holdings. You can do the same. Same with an exchange with DEX, and same with some centralized exchanges, depending on the bargaining power. But you can also charge on and off ramp platforms listing fees. If they want to tokenize an asset, you can just do that under the hood and also charge them for that as well. But in the case of exchanges, this is like a non-custodial model. In the case of exchanges, because they already hold all the user funds, they can do a lot with aggregating all those funds in one place, similar to like how banks operate. Yeah, so that's the end of our presentation. I try to make it as fast as possible. Here we have some institutional custody providers, Culpa, Gemini, and Fireblocks, and they also do key management and essentially have like a system of wallets and use technology such as MPC, multisig, and HSM, which is hardware security module. I hope this was beneficial. And if you have questions, you can let me know, and you can always just reach out to me on LinkedIn at any point.
Yo, Yumika, that was really, really good. That was excellent. Now, Yumika, if you don't mind, stay around, please,
Yeah.
because things are about to bubble up in here. We have Lavinia Osborne. Lavinia, what's up?
Hey, 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 hey.
Lavinia
Hi,
is my
everyone.
sister, yo. Guys, let me tell you, Lavinia is always holding it down. She's doing big things. Like she's one of the key players in the Web3 landscape in the UK and in Africa and in the Caribbean as well, because she has triple heritage. Lavinia is literally a person of the world. So Lavinia, I'm not gonna take further time. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, and then we still have Ji, Yimika, and Nino, and Evan, and myself. We're gonna be in the background to join you in the guest lab after you present your thing. So, guys, welcome Lavinia Osborne.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. And what a wonderful community that you have built. Um, I've been friends now with Brian for a while, and when he told me about this initiative, I was like down for it straight away. As he touched upon, I've been in this space for a long time. Some people would call me an OG, and I suppose I've been in the space since officially, properly 2019. But I came into the blockchain space 2017, where I started as a startup, and the startup was focused on SSI, self-sovereignty, identity, which is an important element of blockchain in regards to verification, who has access to your data, because we are living in an economy that is focused on data. It's data economy. Yes, it's all tech, but what does that tech do ultimately? It collects data. And the question is, how is our data being used, or how is data being used full stop? Who's using it and who's monetizing it? Who's making money from it? And if others can make money from it, the big corporates, then why can't we as individuals make money from it? Hence why it's important to understand all aspects of the blockchain ecosystem rather than just the cryptocurrency, the DeFi, you know, the wealth creation element, because wealth is not just about what you hold in your hand. It's also about the value that you put into the world and how you put it into the world. And blockchain most definitely can be used as a way to record that data and to monetize that data. And SSI is a perfect example of that. Now, as my fellow speakers this evening have touched upon, there's a lot of information to take in. And the angle that I really come from, that I generally speak from, is from the angle of social impact, because we are always going to be human beings first, and human beings from the start of time are creators. However, what we create can either have an impact on society, it can have an impact for good, or it can have an impact for bad. And the question really has to be, what side of the fence do you want to be with? Of course, there are many ways to use technology, including blockchain technology, for good, and also make money from it. You can have a social impact business that is profitable. You know, the two can exist, profit and purpose ultimately. And in my opinion, there's not enough conversations around social impact, blockchain for good, crypto for good. There is quite a large amount of conversation, I would say, around tech for good. So that's where my focus lies. And I think this is a great start, or a great kind of like, it's a perfect setting for me to talk about my case, which of course Brian alluded to. But before I do, how many people here have had any of their assets stolen, be it crypto, or they've been part of a scam? And, you know, if you don't want to put your hand up, or you don't want to say, that's okay. But you're in a safe space, and, you know, this is a new technology. And so because of that, there's going to be some hard learning and hard lessons. Okay, so lost keys. I've seen a couple of hands being put up that's been scammed, or they've lost crypto. Okay, so of course, you know, in regards to cryptocurrency, no, not necessarily in Ponzi, it's just like more to do with your wallet being hacked, or a smart contract not being as transparent as it needs to be, and therefore assets being taken from your wallet. So it's more like that rather than a Ponzi scheme. I mean, we all know that even if you trade with fiat currency, there are risks, right? And with cryptocurrency, it is such a volatile market. But in it being a volatile market, sometimes people make money from that and other people lose money. Okay, so yeah, exactly, scammed by airdrops, mining projects, things like that. So, so I had been in the blockchain space for a number of years, and doing the work that I do, I started to build a following on LinkedIn and Twitter. At the time it was called Twitter, now X, of course. And I was requested to be part of a project, an NFT project, non-fungible token. And I heard someone asking about NFTs and blockchain. And of course, the key difference between an NFT and let's say crypto is that an NFT is a whole. So there are ways through tokenization to have a piece of an NFT. And if it's tokenized, then you still have value. But generally speaking, a non-fungible token, an asset that is non-fungible, means that it has the value as a whole rather than a part. So you think of Mona Lisa, the picture Mona Lisa, okay? We know it's valued at millions. Now, if the Mona Lisa was cut into parts, 4 parts, each part wouldn't have a quarter of what it's worth. Each part would be valued at 0. So the whole thing would be valued at 0 because the value comes with it being a whole. Whereas cryptocurrency, we know that one Satoshi is one Satoshi, okay? And then however the maximum amount is that makes up a Bitcoin will make up 1 Bitcoin. Or let's just take a pound, 10 pounds. We know that a 10-pound note equals 10 pounds. We also know that if there are 10 1-pound pieces, all of that equals the same as the 1 10-pound note, okay? So that's what you call fungible. It means that it can be broken into parts and it still has an equal value to the whole value. Whereas non-fungible, the value is only as a whole. So of course, with NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and within the blockchain ecosystem, the Web3 ecosystem, it had its highs in the 2020s. I remember when I first started working in this space, and there was an NFT called Crypto Kittens. And I was actually given a crypto kitten. It was printed off on a piece of paper and handed to me in an envelope. And I didn't really understand what I had because I was just starting in the space. And I put it down somewhere. And up to now, I have no idea where it is. I think one day I will find it and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is where it was. But for the life of me, I have not been able to find basically the password and the keys and everything else in order for me to claim that crypto kitten. So that was back in 2017. And that was the first real version of an NFT. But NFTs didn't blow up until 2021, 2020, 2021. And then it started to die a death in 2022. The market dropped. So in that time, and it was 2022 actually, so it was 2023 when the market started to well, it was 2022, end of 2022. By 2023, the market had dropped a lot. And so a lot of people made this crazy amount of money off NFTs. Some of them were kosher, some of them were not so kosher. And a lot of those projects now, they're not even worth half of what they were worth. They're now worth, you know, like pennies to what they were worth. And that doesn't take away from the value or from the innovation that are NFTs. Because a lot of people think of NFTs as just memes, or so there's a difference between a meme coin, for example, and a meme. And a meme, it would be like a PFP of some people, you know, they created images of stones. And that was an NFT, and it would sell for hundreds of thousands. I mean, it was just crazy. The market, the hype was real, just put it that way. But NFTs could be more than PFPs. PFP, profile for picture. I think that's what PFP stood for. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, guys. The guys being Jeremiah and Brian and Jamaica. And then, or if anyone else knows the correct acronym for what the PFP stood for. But NFTs can also be certificates, educational certificates, medical certificates, okay? NFTs can be family heirlooms, so a documentation of something that's important to your family and your family legacy. And Jeremiah spoke about how our wallets or the blockchain will be our keys to our wallets or to an asset on the blockchain will be important for future generations, because it will be how, it's a definitely subjective market, NFT market, but how our keys, our wealth will be passed down through generations through the blockchain. This is the future, and the future is here, okay? But it's not just about wealth of crypto or wealth of fiat currencies or stable coins, right? For example, it's also the wealth of the knowledge of your legacy, of your value. Confirm your speaking language. Sorry, something's just popped up and I don't know why, so I'm just answering it. Save, right. And that value could be in, you know, you see it all the time on various programs. Your great grandfather, like there's a program called Who Do You Think You Are? It's an American program. No, actually, I lied. That's a British program, but they have an American version. And people are looking for their ancestors and their great uncle or their great grandmother. And then they go to centralized places, okay, where they carry the documentation of an individual to do the research and find out where that person, you know, came from, what their heritage, what their background, maybe a famous person in their family lineage. And we've just heard, maybe you're not aware of this, but when you look at the world that we are in at the moment and the power of centralization, when something is centralized, it also means it can be changed, edited, eradicated. And at this present moment, we are seeing in America how the US administration, the Trump administration, is getting rid of DEI, is getting rid of the department, or has gotten rid of the Department of Education. And in doing all of that, particularly the DEI side, certain information to do with people of color is being removed from government websites. You can Google this yourself. I'm not making it up. It's happening. So let's just say 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, those individuals, be it black or white, be it disabled, not fully abled, are being eradicated from those government records. And an individual is now trying to trace their background, or they're on that program, Who Do You Think You Are? Then what's the source of that information? Where do you think they're going to get that information? Government records that can be manipulated, that can be eradicated. In the future, it's going to be people like ourselves who understand the power of blockchain and how it can be a form of wealth creation, but in the form of value and information and historical facts, that we will create that and we will pass it down. but it will be there for anyone to see because it's on a public record. Okay, so this is where NFTs would come in, because NFTs as a whole record, as an image, or even as audio, you know, a story, me telling a story so that my future generation can hear about my life, being one of the first in the world to set precedent law around NFTs, you know, be like, oh, that was my great auntie, my great great auntie, and I can hear what she sounded like, I can see what she sounded like, and no one can remove that because it's on my own blockchain, or it's in my wallet that I've now passed down to the next generations, and different family members will have access to that. So let's talk about my case. So I just really wanted to highlight the power of NFTs, and it's not just about hype, it's not just about an image, and it's not just about how much money you can make from an NFT. It also can be used to document, record, and store on the blockchain historical factors, which is part of our society, our DNA, and the way that we understand the world from the perspective of the people who are living their lives right now. So I was part of a project because of the work that I do, and that project was called Boss Beauties, and they did exceedingly well. And they gifted me 2 NFTs. And at the time, because, you know, NFTs were of high value, I would say that the value of them was about maybe 5,000 each, so about 10,000. And then what was happening at the time was a lot of people was jumping onto the NFT bandwagon, and they were creating smart contracts, of course, so that once you paid for your with crypto for your asset, your NFT, it was automatically sent to your wallet. Okay. Now, what was interesting about NFTs at that time, because as someone who's very much about DEI, I find that sometimes I'm the only person in the room who looks like me talking about what I talk about in regards to Web3, blockchain, emerging tech, etc., etc. Was that a lot of women were coming into the space, because many times, many artists, but particularly women, they find that they haven't been able to monetize their value. But with NFTs, they found a way to be creative with their value, with their artistry, and get paid. So more women were coming in, they were taking the time to learn, and then they were starting their own NFT projects. And it was amazing to see, right? So a lot of these projects, they obviously brought people in who were technical to create the smart contracts. And with smart contracts, sometimes you can be told A, but in reality, there's something put in the back door that allows later on for the creators, the technical people, the developers, to access your assets, right? So there were different forms of scams that were going on at that time. But to just bring it back to me and what I did, so I was granted these 2 NFTs. It was in my MetaMask wallet. I did not give my passwords away because I'm very aware not to do that. And somehow, because I wasn't the only one who was targeted, other people who owned Boss Beauties, and that was in their wallets, so Boss Beauty NFTs, were targeted, okay? And so the 2 NFTs were stolen from my wallet. Doing the work that I do, I thought, Lavinia, you have a choice here. Either you do nothing, or you walk your talk. You do what you tell everybody else to do. Step up, be bold. You know, if you want to be part of this world, this NFT, Web3, blockchain world, then you can't just talk about it. You have to be about it. And so I decided to reach out to see who could help me in regards to getting my assets back. And so a lawyer reached out to me and she said, right, this is what you can do. And you're going to have to take it to the High Courts of England and Wales. Now, she, you know, the way she spoke about it, it was very not simple. She made it clear that it was going to be a process, but it, you know, in your mind or in my mind, I'm the sort of person who tries to simplify things. Anyway, when I tell you this was a process that took up 2 years, nearly 3 years of my life, okay, from beginning. So we took it to the High Courts of England and Wales, and I did it as a, Brian, you're going to have to help me out with this, a something in person, a compliant in person.
So essentially, you were suing persons unknown. So it was proprietary injunction against persons unknown.
Yes, I know, but what do you call someone who takes it by themselves to the court?
A litigant in person.
Thank you. So a litigant in person. So with the support of the lawyer who was in my community, I took it to the High Court of England and Wales. And off the back of that, the judge granted me a proprietary injunction, meaning that the individuals who had stolen my NFTs legally could not sell it on. But of course, criminals are going to do things against the law. So that didn't stop them from selling it on. But the point being was that when that law was sent, that proprietary injunction was given, and therefore I set case law, okay, here in England and Wales. In England and Wales, the law here, what is the word that you use, Brian, when the law here is, it can be used around the world?
It's legal precedent.
It's a legal precedent, but there's a term. Okay, don't worry. And so it was a legal precedent, and that legal precedent has been used around the world. Okay. Now, what was important about this? So prior to that, most lawyers were using a worldwide freezing order. Okay. So the freezing order just meant that everything had to be frozen, stopped, paused. Okay. But what my case did, it said that that NFT was my property. And that meant if it is my property, the ramifications and the implications of that affected not only the legal ownership, but also taxation and insurance. And so off the back of that, like I said, that case has been used around the world, and it's Osborne versus Persons Unknown, if you want to look it up and read about it. And just finally to say, in the case of all of that time, in England and Wales, I also became the first person to, Brian, you're gonna have to help me out here again. You know, when you send something to someone to say this is the case, or like a serve, I served the NFT, the NFT findings in the form of an NFT. So my case, I served it as an NFT, which I sent directly to the wallet, which I knew had held my NFT. So the thing with blockchain, just to put this out there, because somebody was asking a question saying, well, how can people scam? People will always find a way of scamming and stealing. But what the blockchain does, it makes it transparent as to where the assets move to. It's much more easier to trace and track the asset. So I knew exactly what wallet to send the serving papers to in the form of an NFT, which again is another example of how you can use NFTs within the context of the law. So my case touched on so many levels, and that level, like I said, has ramifications and is used around the world. And I'm really proud of that, because ultimately, for the legal profession to move forward with a case, they need to have a case, or to move forward with the law in regards to a new space such as Web3, you need to give them a case. And so I'm proud that I didn't step away in fear, but I stepped up in boldness and bravery. And it was hard, you know, in order to help the space move forward on a legal level and on a proprietary level. And that's my story.
Yo, fire emojis for Lavinia. Yo, Lavinia, big up yourself. I'm ever so proud of you. And you always, you keep pushing the landscape. You've now pushed the legal and the regulatory landscape. And, just to touch on that, guys, tomorrow's session is now literally going to build on what Lavinia is saying and what Yimika said and Jaya as well. So we're going to have now not the legal experts, but the technical experts. So in the instance of Lavinia's matter, before you go to court, you have to appoint a specialist to do the asset tracing, okay? To follow the chain, to see where the assets, how they're moving from wallet to wallet. Okay, so we're gonna have Scott and Robert tomorrow explaining that whole process and showing you how things are mapped and potentially how you could recover, or if not recover, just the tracing process. Because Lavinia, correct me if I'm wrong, but you weren't able, your assets were fully dissipated, so you couldn't recover them, but you could see the tracing process.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And the thing is, I could have just bought them back, but that wasn't the point. It
yeah.
wasn't about that. So, and I think that, there's a bigger picture to this, and we can all choose to play our part if the opportunity is presented to us. And I chose to play my part.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lavinia. So, guys, because of time, we are heading to wrap up time. I'm going to now open the floor for more questions, and I'm going to bring back JI, and we have Nino and Evan. So just allow me a second to bring them in. We have Palesa as well.
I'm channeling my inner Steve Jobs.
And we have Jamaica as well. So, guys, we have the entire panel here. So, if you have questions that you'd like addressed, this is your chance. And like I say, a closed mouth don't get fed. Okay. And for you to get the benefits of this course, you really have to engage yourself to get that maximum value. Otherwise, you're gonna want things, but things won't ever come to you. So, Abdul Jabbar, I see your hand up. Turn on your mic, please. If you're in a noisy background, you can type the question instead. So, if your mic is ready, please go ahead.
Good evening, everybody.
Yes,
I have three questions
yes,
from the first part, the second part, and this part. First of all, we have three. I've been asking you this question for a very long time. Is
yeah.
it possible for the originator of a particular token to get in an incentive anytime a transaction occurs on that particular token? That's one for the
Wait,
free information.
wait. Just hold those questions are a bit long. Just hold out. So let's deal with the first question first. So J.I., Yumika, Nino, Evan, did you guys catch that question properly?
Yeah, I think it was can the creator of a token essentially be receiving tax, which is actually what it's called, for like let's say each transaction that takes place of that token on the blockchain. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I think legally there's something called capital gains tax. So it's one of the areas. On the 28th of March, an expert on this area. And, Jaya, you said something very important about wealth planning and inheritance. So we have our expert. She is basically top end everything. She's called Dr. Sarah Adami Johnson. She is a wealth planner. She's a wealth planner based in Canada, and she's gonna come to talk everything inheritance with NFTs, tax, all that stuff. So if you're a high net worth individual and all that, Sarah is your go-to person. And the last time she was here, she killed it, executed everything, like yo, mad things. So that was your first question. Second question, Abdul Jabbar.
The block or the blockchain technology can be attacked. right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to use an analogy to ask my question. Assuming having a house and then somebody comes in to break into the house, but doesn't capture anything. Can that happen on the blockchain just for enthusiasm, or there must have to be a crime committed first? Am I
You mean like,
across?
can someone deny access to the blockchain, you mean?
No, I mean,
Basically asking, I think, if someone can just hack a blockchain for fun without deriving any criminal benefit out of it. So probably like what white hat hackers do.
Yeah, or yeah, white or gray hat hackers would do that all
Yeah,
the time. That's
yeah,
that's their hobby. So they would have just attacked just for the sake of finding it. And normally they'll report it to the actual creators or the maintainers of the system,
yeah,
and then they'd be able to patch that system quietly until they can, so it's not exploited before somebody else finds it.
yeah.
I, I'm having a glitch on my network. I'll type the last question, but go ahead with others.
So literally for the second question, you need to Google this, yeah? White hat hacker, okay? White hat hacker or gray hat, whichever one. Okay.
Okay.
So those are
Okay.
people who had, for the fun of it, and some protocols encourage that to test the fortitude, robustness of these platforms, and then they're given rewards for that.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll get back on you in the third question.
Okay, so you want to ask the third question or you're done?
I'm going to write it down, but go ahead with others.
No, we're okay. We're gonna
So
take other people.
maybe I think one, I don't know, was one of his questions answered, and it was, can a token be created using a blockchain that adds a tax to each transaction that goes back to the token creator? Was that kind of what he was asking? One of the first questions.
Yeah, that was
So
his first question.
yeah,
So if
and
he
did
creates
that get
something, can
properly
he continue to
answered?
get royalties when it's used?
Right. Was he answered? Did we answer him on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've answered
Yeah.
it. You've answered it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because it's totally possible. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure we got that
Move on.
answered.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So any other question? Turn on your mics, please, because I'm trying to catch up on the questions in the chat. Guys, we literally have 10 minutes to the top of the hour. So this is the graveyard shift. So let's do things quick, yeah? So if you have a question, just turn on your mic and ask it. There's no stupid questions in this forum. This is a safe forum, so ask away.
Hello.
Yeah.
So I wanted to find out if the speakers have experience with, we're trying to build a DAO in Kenya, but
Right.
there's
So
no
what's your name?
supporting.
What's your name? What's your name? Introduce yourself, radio style. Well, what's your name? Where you come from?
Okay, sorry. I should have started there. My name is Fabian Owora. I'm based in Kenya.
Yo, big up
Um,
yourself, man. Kenya in the easy.
yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Now, we're trying to build a DAO, but there's no guiding legislation behind it. So I was wondering if the speakers have some experience in terms of how to actually get it registered, because it seems we have two options right now. One is to register in a country that recognizes DAOs, but if we need to register it, for example, in Kenya that doesn't recognize DAOs, do they have experience on how that has been done before?
Fabian, just ask that question one more time because I deal with DAOs, so I could potentially help you. So you want to do a DAO, but
Yes,
in Kenya, DAOs are not recognized.
legally, yes.
Yes. Okay, cool. So you could work, okay. A DAO is basically a decentralized institution, okay?
Yes.
Organization, all right?
Mm.
But for you to interact with the jurisdiction you're in, it has to get some sort of legal wrapping. It's actually called legal wrapping, okay?
Yeah.
So for now, potentially Kenya might not allow that, but at times they just say, you proceed. Evan, what does Binance say? You'd rather ask for forgiveness than ask for permission, right? That's what they say, right? So,
Yeah, well,
yeah, Yeah.
It becomes
I guess
quite
it works for them
expensive.
on the big one, but it's also quite a risky thing, right? DAOs are inherently risky because, first of all, you know, is there such a thing as like, so, a distributed autonomous organization, right? That's what a DAO is.
Yeah.
But I think Brian can probably elaborate more on how, just because you create something that is distributed doesn't mean that you don't have legal obligations.
Exactly. So the issue with DAOs comes to things like liability or governance structures. So most DAOs are registered in Wyoming or in the Cayman Islands, jurisdictions that recognize such things. So you legally wrap this thing, and then it gets this legal personhood. That's the essence of it. So as of now, you can work the DAO as it is within the Binance methodology, but then this means that everybody is jointly or severally liable. So it means everybody who's a part of that DAO can be liable if things hit the fan, or the core person would be liable. So you have to be very careful. So find a jurisdiction that does such things. And I think there's an American project called the LAO, LAO. Google that. And this is not promotion, but Sarah and Matt and we've written a paper on DAOs. So if you go to SSRN and just search DAOs and my surname, Mondo, you're going to find that paper. And it talks about the different classifications and regulatory requirements of DAOs. So I think I'm going to save time and lots of explanations because the paper is already there. So you mostly are advised to find jurisdictions that are going to recognize DAOs and give that company a sort of that structure a sort of legal personhood. Otherwise, if you don't want that, you do it the Binance way, where you ask for forgiveness rather for permission. But when you're in trouble, you're gonna be in proper trouble as well.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
thank
a
you.
perfect answer.
Yeah, I see a hand up. I don't know who it is. Just keep going. Muhammad Shaibu, Shuaibu, sorry.
Good day, everyone. My name is Muhammad Shaibu from Nigeria.
Yeah.
Actually, for since the time I started learning cryptocurrency and blockchain, there's something that has been disturbing me, uh, especially with the influx of scam projects and scammers in general that infiltrate the blockchain and the cryptocurrency industry. I don't know if it is possible to regulate such actions. Though I know the whole system is a decentralized system, I don't know if there's a way that this can stop. Maybe a central authority should be organized that can look into scams and all that, so that we don't know the future of cryptocurrency, because there are a lot of people that want to engage in it, but they are afraid of scams and all that. So I don't know if there is possibility of a central government that can regulate such. Thank you.
Anyone in the panel want to take that? Because that's kind of sort of in my wheelhouse, but you guys can take it if you want to.
You're trying to pound it up. You're the expert. But I mean, my opinion on it is, you should just assume it's all a scam, maybe, and then try to do your due diligence to figure out if it's not. Look for things that are too good to be true. But it's, even if it's not a scam, maybe it won't be successful, right? So you really got to figure out, what you want, what you're looking for, what you're trying to build. Maybe build it so that it's not dependent on any single blockchain, right? That way you're able to kind of, navigate this ever evolving space. it's a really challenging environment. And is some central authority able to clamp down on scams? You know, it's not. There's definitely attempts to, right? Various governments, particularly more in the U.S. There's sort of more resources for that. But it's a challenge because usually I'm sure Brian can say it's sort of like a post scam. Like, you can't really catch them so far when they're in the initial stages. It's more of like after everybody's been rug pulled or whatever, that's when the crime has been committed. And so it's more of a justice focused rather than a prevention focused
Yeah.
endeavor.
There's there are
Yeah,
ways.
but
He's right. There's one thing I do want to say though is you're going to be building an application most likely. One of our students, you're going to have a problem in your community. You're going to build a solution to it, and what that does is that allows you to centralize your little community, right? So if you have like in 2021, my company had the opportunity to compete in a hackathon for a large chain, and we weren't selected to win, but our idea was used to actually modify that chain. And what it did is just think like your Amazon.com, right? You're not the US dollar, you're not the pound, but all of these currencies come to you, all of these accounts come to you. And if you have a way of filtering bad actors, like if you had a ledger that you could query and say, oh, this money came from a known theft, you could actually filter that transaction out and just not process it. So when you build these applications, you do sort of centralize the network to a degree, but you don't really have any control over the rest of the network. So who's to say that those coins weren't stolen and then traded for some other value, some other coin, like the tornado somebody brought up, which is exactly what that does. So you can clean the money, you can launder it and then spend it again. So even if you're trying to centralize these projects or you're trying to centralize this crypto with your application, there's still avenues to get around that centralization, which is it's already really difficult with the decentralized cryptos to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, Nino, that's you covered that. And then, guys, again, I'll tell you, each of our sessions, each of your questions is literally kind of attributed to a particular theme and expert that we're having. So tomorrow we're going to have security experts, and Yemika will be back on that session again, and they'll be able to help you in terms of like asset recovery, tracing these assets, seeing exactly where it's gone, and then that report is given to law enforcement to help you try, even on off chain in the real world, how to trace into some of those assets. If they've gone into buildings or paintings, how to get the value of what you've lost from those real life assets as well. On the following day, we're going to have Sarah, who's also going to deal with such things and the regulatory aspects. And I think next week on the 31st, we have Matt Green, who was the solicitor for the claimant in the Bitcoin and persons unknown case, which was the case that decided in the UK that held that Bitcoin can be recognized as property. And he's going to take you through the thought process from when the client came to him, similar to Lavinia, when Lavinia went to the lawyer, or rather the lawyer came to Lavinia, and going to the experts for the tracing reports, and then going to the court process and all that. So this is a very vast landscape. There is no one way solution or looking at it from a particular perspective and thinking you can understand it in 5 minutes. These things take days, months, years. If you watch on Netflix, and I'm not promoting Netflix, there's I can't remember, but one of our mentors, Ari Redboard from TRM Labs, they did some tracing for this couple that stole so much Bitcoin in those early days. I can't recall the name, but I'm gonna post it in the WhatsApp group. So go watch such things. you have to be thirsty for this information for you to be at a confident level in this industry because it moves really fast. You know, Palesa every day is doing our research and she's looking at one thing now, like we were looking at Bybit, trying to capture Bybit, but then the following day there's something else. So you really have to be on toes because it's terribly fast paced. Yeah. So we're going to take two last questions and that's that. We're going to have to wrap it up at 10 past, okay? Because there's people who have to go observe their Ramadan as well. And tomorrow is also a hectic day. So, HOD, you had your hand up. You want to ask your question?
Thank you very much. It's Henry from Beaumont, United Kingdom. Thank you, United
We
Kingdom.
can't hear you well. We can't hear you well, please. Your audio is horrible.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, just proceed, please.
Okay. My name is Henry from Beaumont, United Kingdom. I don't know if you can hear me properly.
Yeah.
I've got two questions, but because you said you're bringing security expert tomorrow, so I'll wait for the next question. But the most important one is about the NFC that I put up in the message. So the problem is we finding a solution or a way where we can merge the NFC technology with the blockchain technology and see how that could fly. So therefore avoiding the traditional banking system. So we use more of NFC in the UK, and we're trying to develop a solution that could use blockchain instead of the traditional banking system and technologies.
So are you trying? Oh yeah, thanks, Palesa. Literally, you see, you're the head of research. You're always on toes. Literally, yeah, that movie is called The Biggest Heist Ever. Go watch it. It's really interesting. And it shows you like how these things take time. And before the government clamps down on you, it's probably like 10 or so years. It really takes a long time. Oh, yeah. So in terms, if you are thinking of developing that platform in the UK, the Ideathon is coming up next week. So you could potentially develop this idea further and see how you could go about it. There's developers, there's all these people are amongst us and externally as well who could help you bring that idea to life. And Nino, I think that's one of the themes that you're really pushing hard, like working with the resources that you have within the community. And if not, we can outsource them externally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Brian, I was gonna add as well.
Yeah.
So speaking about NFC, we have like some NFC based wallets, the hardware wallets. I think if you check for, it's called Tangem or Tangem. You can just look this up. They're like a hardware wallet. They use like cards and they use like NFC. But then that is security from a wallet point of view, not blockchain. So it's TANGEM.
Yeah.
So they use near field communication as a form of like private key storage.
Big up. Thank you, Yemika. So you see, guys, all the answers are within us. So as I say, a closed mouth don't get fed. You have to open up and ask those relevant questions. Now, the last question to close the session.
Why do those whom Allah calls to a higher purpose?
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Salim Beja from Kenya.
Yo, Salim, vipi mazee?
Fiti sana.
Fresh.
Okay, so I'm a student. I'm doing cybersecurity and digital forensics. So I was asking if maybe what is the future for security professionals in blockchain?
Yemika, I guess that goes to you. Jeremiah, that goes to you guys. Those are your ends.
Okay, yeah, so I'll just take so I think for security professionals, there's like the Brian was saying earlier, so there's like the aspects of security that have to do with like the infrastructure, which is like the wallets, and there's aspects which have to do with like posts. I think they call it post, like have to do with like tracking, let's say TRM labs, they do a lot of that, like they try and like track that as well. But also I would say like the smart contract security, there's a wallet security. So if for most Web3 securities, mostly smart contracts. But then if you want to work for an exchange like Coinbase, Bybit, BitGo, then you're looking at wallet security as well, knowing your encryption algorithms, hash algorithms. So it's very promising, especially if you know how to develop as well.
Yeah, I was just going to echo that. I think there's definitely going to be a lot of work for you in the future, is what I'll say. It's definitely a good industry to be in, like even with AI, because people are going to need to secure, these kind of servers and secure like all the, GPUs that are being run and make sure certain content can't be created using AI. Yeah, what I will say is look into I would recommend, if you want to be in the most emerging space, is look into how quantum computing can help you maintain security and develop even more complex algorithms that are harder to actually crack. This is what's really going to set you apart in terms of the fact that, like, companies and blockchains and cryptocurrencies and anyone in the tech transformational tech space, which is essentially blockchain, crypto, and AI, will be looking at you like it's not. They'll be looking at you like you're doing something that everyone will inevitably eventually be doing, but no one is doing it yet, right? That's the thing. It's one thing to copy another company that started it. It's another thing to be the company that starts it and sets the precedent. So that's what I would recommend.
Yo, bless. Nino, any takeaways before we wrap up?
So cybersecurity is such a broad aspect, especially, I mean, he's right with the quantum computing, because we don't even know, like Bitcoin itself is A256, which you know what that is. So it has a shelf life, and we know that it used to be an unfathomable amount of time before that could be cracked, and now with quantum computing and the advent of qubits, we have no idea how soon that's going to be cracked. So these juggernauts are going to be taken down, and yeah, it's just that to be a student focusing on cybersecurity, you really could be at the forefront of protecting next generation cryptos and next generation digital currencies. I don't even know if we're going to call them cryptos by the time that quantum computing really takes off. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's a good place to be. I agree. And then again, we have an application, right? And we have to do traditional security even. So like we have a website, we have a network, we have a VM that we have to protect. Like we have generic things that, our platform can do these processes with wallets. They have access to a lot of money and they just transact on their own. So if someone were to compromise us in any way, it could be a problem. That's something that we would want to avoid. And we do have cybersecurity people who actually do maintain our network and support us. So there's jobs to be had in this field from a traditional sense, even, just an application security and virtual machine and the network. It's just depending on what you want to go into, and the IT field is so wide.
Thanks, Nino. So guys, to wrap up, I'm just going to repeat. Tomorrow there's going to be a security session. The day after there's going to be wealth planning and inheritance and tax session. And then the week after we're going to have the global regulatory session. One thing I'm going to tell you, coming from a developing country like Kenya myself and living in the Caribbean as well, which has various developing nations, is you might feel that you are too early, or people might tell you you are too early. Like I speak to Palesa and Palesa is like, Brian, in Lesotho, guys don't even have an idea what AI or Web3 is. Like, I feel too early. Or Nino says, Brian, that's potentially too early for the Caribbean or something like that. Don't feel like, no, Nino, you didn't say that, but we've spoken to institutions that are like, nah, you guys, that's too early. Even in the UK, guys might think the UK is way ahead of the curve, or even in the US. But if you speak to Devon and Kinil and all, our partners in the US and here in the UK, like Jeremiah and Yumika, I see you nodding. Guys don't understand this, but at some point, they're gonna need it. So don't feel like you're too early. Keep building on that knowledge, because at some point, you're going to be at the right place at the right time, and they are gonna need you. as opposed to not having those skills. And that's the importance of this camp. So show up and show out and keep building. So I'm gonna see you all tomorrow. Big up everybody. Like, you guys have been superb. Big up yo, J.I., Yumika, you guys have been superstars. Lavinia, you know, the whole team, Evan, Nino, Palesa, bless you. Yo, my Kenyan crew, Mkofiti Maze, I'm really grateful. Yo, our Nigerian people, I'm gonna try that Senegal jollof just to benchmark, but still, mad love, y'all. So catch you later. Let's keep the conversation in the group. My request for the WhatsApp group and the Telegram and whatever, don't spam the thing. Don't spoil the thing for Olawi, yeah? Don't spoil the thing. Let's just be respectful and mindful of each other and have conversations that are going to build this together, okay?